Okay. Good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the May meeting of the Binghamton Traffic Board. It is May 9th, 2024. The first item of business is approval of the minutes from the March 2024 meeting. It occurred to me this morning that those have not been distributed yet, so we'll have to approve those at our next meeting. So if I could just get a motion to table.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to the public comment portion of our agenda. Anyone here today to address the board, please come on down and just state your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes to address the board.
We didn't do a roll call.
Sorry.
Roll call. We didn't do the roll call.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we typically do that, but I guess should, yeah. I guess we could call the roll.
Present.
BMTS rep. Present. Councilman Matavetsky.
Present.
Sergeant Music is an advisor to the board, as is our BMTS rep. He's present. Commissioner Paludi.
Present.
And Assistant Director Martinez.
Present.
Okay, so now we'll move on to public comment. If you'd like to come on up, just do me a favor and make sure to press the button on the microphone so that the light turns green and we'll be able to hear you. Try again. Right.
Let it go.
It's not a you issue, believe me.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
There we go. Sorry, I've never been soft-spoken in my life, so I'm surprised. My name is Jeremiah Brown. I live at the corner of Thorpe and Crandall Street. 19 Crandall is my address. We have an issue in our neighborhood with excessive speeding and some erratic driving, but mostly excessive speeding on Thorpe Street primarily. And Thorpe is effectively a complete thoroughfare. There's no, from Jarvis to Walnut, there's no stop signs, there's no speed bumps, there's nothing that sort of impedes people. And this time of year, basically from the minute it's nice out, we have generally groups of motorcycles riding in excess of 100 miles an hour or more down Thorpe. Anywhere from 2 to upwards to 6. We're a heavily residential neighborhood. Just around that particular intersection where I live on the corner, there's probably 10 children in the ages of probably 18 months to 10 years old. My son is 2. And, you know, we've had one of my neighbors was hit turning into his driveway last year by a car that decided they weren't going to be patient, tried to go around him. Cars are generally speeding anywhere from 50 to 80 miles an hour. Motorcycles are obviously even worse. I just saw that story of the Albany student who just came out of a medically induced coma this morning after being hit on a city street by an illegal dirt bike rider at 12 a.m. who was weaving in and out of groups of people. I don't want that to be a kid in my neighborhood. I didn't know about the traffic board, so I've been trying to bring this issue to City Hall for close to 2 years now. And I finally ended up emailing back and forth with the mayor a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, a bunch of members of our neighborhood have submitted requests to the traffic board. A 4-way stop at Crandall and Thorpe would be amazing, but I definitely don't think that a lot of these people would even respect a stop sign. So speed table or speed bumps would be hugely helpful. That street becomes a cut around for traffic on Main Street or Clinton really frequently. And so, you have people that are in a rush. You have people that are, it's a sort of low income area. They're, there isn't a lot of resources, so like people sort of just do what they want, you know. There were 4 motorcycle riders sitting on Crandall between Thorpe and Main Street last night that when they turned around, one of them drove the length of Crandall on the sidewalk in front of the First Ward houses last night while my wife and son and I were out taking a walk. Like things like that are a regular occurrence. And like all of the houses on Crandall Street, like all the First Ward Action Council houses, like that's all kids and you know seniors. So it's pretty scary. Anyway, that's it for me.
Can I just ask, because you had mentioned the story about the Albany student?
Sure.
Are you having issues with off-road vehicles too, or are these like,
There's been some, I mean, that's not as regular. So we have, you know, those like mini bikes that
Yes.
are sold at like Tractor Supply and stuff like that. We have those really frequently as well. You know, and that's like kids hot rodding. But honestly, like that to me, that isn't as much of a concern as like 4 or 5, you know, import race bikes doing in excess of 100 miles an hour and wheeling down our street, you know, at like between like 2 p.m. in the afternoon and then like all the way up to midnight, you know, at night. And that's, you know, it's not like that's just the weekends. Like I called PD on Monday of this week because from 5 p.m. when I got home from work to 7 p.m. at night when I was putting my son down, we had already had 4 groups of 2 to 4 motorcycles going. And I mean, it sounds like you're on a Formula One racetrack. Like it's so insanely loud going down the street, you know.
thank you. I appreciate you coming down. We've got it on the agenda already because we received the applications through the traffic board website.
Great.
So we'll have the traffic division and this group do a formal review and take a look at what we can hopefully do to help.
Awesome. When I called the police department on Monday, I was told that they couldn't put I wanted to request a traffic detail that like there's a little turnout sort of at that 4-way intersection of Thorpe and Crandall. And I was trying to request a unit to sit there just to like sort of help as a Band-Aid between like whenever something is done and like the study period. And they said that had to come from like our council member or the mayor. That couldn't be something that like I could request as a citizen. So that's like another thing I would just like to put out there because, you know, like we have regular patrols, but that doesn't help, you know, that hasn't helped this problem, you know, in the 3 years that I've lived there. So
Okay, I appreciate you coming down.
thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment today?
You have to repeat these directions. Is it push-in or
Yeah, so it should be green and
it's
then,
already on? Okay.
yes, that's great. State your name and your address,
Yep.
please.
Good morning. I'm Danielle Yurka and I live at 83 Danielle Yurka and I live at 83 Upper Vine Street. I have spoken to a few of you previously over this past year. I'm here this morning to request a no parking sign. We are very new to the neighborhood. There's been no house here before. So I know it hasn't been a need in the past. But the way, if you were to come down just the short little street of Upper Vine Street, which is off of top of Sherwood, it's just a very short street that goes into our driveway. If vehicles are parked there on the side, it does block the fire hydrant, and it also blocks access to our driveway. It is very challenging to see coming into our driveway around any vehicles, and as you're exiting our driveway, very challenging to see around them as well. Not to mention fire truck, ambulance, snowplow. If vehicles are parked there, it is very hard just to get around them. This past winter, we personally were plowing the street as it was difficult when the vehicles were there. City plows, and again, new, so this has never been an issue in the past, but it was very difficult for the plows to get around any parked vehicles that were there. So we personally plowed that street in order just to get into our driveway at the time. they're with the vehicles that are also parked there, and it's not often as frequent as it was before. I think, being in the neighborhood now, we also have children, so, coming and going, and our vehicles are coming and going as well. But you'll also see where the road has kind of moved now. If, parked vehicles are there for a long period of time. The road is also kind of damaged over a period of time as well. I don't think there's ever been a road there or a house there for the length of time that's, been in existence. So I'm asking if it's possible to look into having a no parking sign there. On either side of the street, just and for the pure reason of, emergency service vehicles trying to get in and out, as well as, city plows, recycling, trucks, garbage trucks of that nature as well.
And you said your address 83 Upper Vine Street,
Mhm.
and the location where you'd be requesting the no parking sign, is it directly in front of the property on either side?
So it's on both sides. When you go, if you're going up Woodland, which I see that's on the agenda as well for the no four-way, when you go up, you're going up Mary Street, you're going to take a left on Sherwood, and then there's another left. It's in a very short street.
Okay.
And then our driveway is straight ahead after that.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you coming. We'll add this to the agenda for next meeting, and we'll have someone out to do a review in the meantime.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Danielle, would you mind just leaving your contact information if you didn't fill out a formal application, right? I did. Okay, yeah. You could just. Okay, is anyone else here for public comment today? You could just please state your name and address.
Yeah, it's Panayotis Carvelis, 43 Thorpe Street.
Okay.
Am I coming through too loud on this thing? All right. I'm here to reiterate, what Jeremiah was saying over there. It's the same thing. We live a couple of houses away from each other. And it's just been a problem for years. And I too am hoping for a speed bump. That would be ideal, because it really is out of control. That's all.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And could I get your name again, sir?
Yeah, it's Panayotis Carvelis, Panagiotis.
Did you submit an online application?
I did.
Okay, I think we should have the contact. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks like no one else here for public comment, so we will close that portion of the meeting. And we can move on to our requested reviews. First up on the agenda is a request for a four-way stop at the corner of Mary Street and Sherwood Street. We discussed this at our last meeting, so I apologize. This should be under the latter part of our agenda. That's my mistake. But the applicant here is essentially requesting a four-way stop sign at this intersection due to the speed of of vehicles in the area. At the last meeting, we had discussed that we had discussed this briefly. One of the things that came up was, given the steep grade of the hill on Sherwood, adding a stop sign at that southwest part of the intersection, forcing drivers to come to a stop going up the hill might be an issue there. But we wanted to pull the crash data for that intersection first before we made any sort of determination. So BMTS did review the crash data for us for a 5-year period between 2018 and 2023. It found there was only one crash in 2023 when someone slid down the hill on Sherwood heading west. And the cause of that crash, I believe, was determined to be bad weather. So essentially what BMTS was recommending, or what they had told us they found, was a four-way stop would not be warranted in this intersection due to the crash count there. Typically, a four-way stop is warranted if a certain number, 5 or more crashes occur within a certain period of time that can be corrected with an all-way stop. So the recommendation from BMTS then would be to deny the request for a four-way stop, but upon reviewing the intersection, they did notice an improvement that could be made. There was a bush in front of the stop sign on Mary Street in the area where the crash last year occurred that was presenting some sight distance issues for people traveling south on Mary Street. So they recommended having the property owner trim back that bush so there was no obstruction to vision. That vegetation has since been trimmed, so there's not a obstruction to vision issue at this time. Is there any discussion or thoughts on this from board members or questions or comments?
I guess as someone who drives around there, I do find it pretty scary that it's two-way and people often don't stop and don't know. I mean, I hear that the crash data doesn't represent the experience of driving it. But it is a scary intersection.
And I think one of the issues we talked about last time was so there's the two-way stop right now is on Mary Street, and the request was for additional stop signs on Sherwood. One of the things we heard was that there were issues with people running the existing stop signs on Mary Street. So we had talked to Public Works about doing stop bars there, some additional paint on the street to enhance the visibility and make sure people are aware of the stopping. And I think we added two-way stop signage to the bottom of those stop signs too. Mary Street is being redone in that section. So the painting of the stop bars will happen once that section of road is freshly paved, but hopefully that helps address that separate but related issue of people running the existing stop signs there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so I think the recommendation on the floor then is we'd be looking to deny the motion for a four-way, deny the application for a four-way stop sign in this intersection. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next part, the next item on our agenda here. This is a request for a new curb cut at 127 Walnut Street for the addition of a residential driveway. This is new business. I don't believe our traffic division or other departments have had an opportunity to review this yet. So I would recommend that we refer this to the traffic division, the planning department and engineering department for review. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that'll be referred and we'll add that back for a determination at our next meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda. This is the request that Woodland Avenue be made into a one-way between South Washington Street and Mary Street. So this is an ongoing issue that the traffic board has been considering for some time now. It was brought to our attention during the winter months with the concern primarily being drivers' inability to stop on Woodland Avenue because of the grade of the hill there. We did some public outreach and we sent letters to neighbors in that area and really a large area of residents who use that portion of Woodland Avenue to enter and exit the neighborhood. We received a good amount of feedback on that. I think that given that we are now hopefully in the part of the year where we won't be getting winter weather anytime soon, we have a little bit more time to continue to do outreach and review the request. Hoping to talk more in depth with the council member on this, who I know does a lot of canvassing in the area and speaks to residents there. I think that this will be a tricky one because there will be no easy way to limit access on that street, but we recognize the safety concerns. So I don't know if anyone has discussion on this, any further discussion on this at this time.
Well, I mean, I guess I have questions. So obviously the written emails is nearly 50-50 with a number of people that I would say don't fall in either camp, but are really trying to put forward something that's winter only. Is there any, for traffic experts, any history of having one-way only, but seasonal? Is that even a possibility?
So I don't think in the city, there's nothing that I'm familiar with that's seasonally one-way only. Sherwood, the one street over that you're familiar with is
completely
closed
closed, yeah.
entirely only in the winter.
But there's no
Um,
houses on that street.
That's, yeah, there's
No
no,
driveways coming up. to
that's
the-
right, yeah, so that further
difference.
complicates the issue, yeah. So it's one of those things to be considering that, a lot of the feedback said that, you know, we would be open to this in the winter, it would be a major inconvenience, especially in the summer months.
The other thing that came up in the emails was related to traffic flow implications. I remember from when we were looking at putting in the Mirabito, or no, the Dunkin' Donuts on South Side, that there was some cool traffic modeling that was done that I was skeptical of, but seems to basically have been accurate. So I don't know if there's something that we could look at easily to see how making that a one-way would impact Mary Street. That was a lot of the feedback related to traffic flow. I don't know like how feasible that is, but
Yeah, I
that
think,
would be something I'd be interested in seeing.
I think that's something that we could look into too. I think it requires more review and discussion with residents at this point, but,
My point is that seeing the simulation, I remember on the other side of the table with the Dunkin' Donuts discussion on South Side, that coming into the meeting and the city having someone show an actual simulation to help visualize, okay, what is actually likely to happen with the traffic, was helpful for me as someone who is coming at it kind of critical.
sure.
When I went up and looked at that, I don't think that those cars can back out of their driveway and go up the hill during the winter.
Yeah, that's
If you
one.
Make it one way going up.
That's one thing we talked about too. Do we possibly limit it to only local traffic? I think there are 5 driveways on that stretch.
But if it's one way going up in the wintertime, when they back out, they probably can't make it up the hill.
Right, right. And then there's a separate enforcement issue there too. So I think it sort of goes without saying that this requires further review and I think we're fortunate to have the warm weather months right now, so.
Yeah, but I want to keep talking about it while it's a little bit fresh. How, obviously number of the people requested like, hey, why don't you just prioritize this road for salting and clearing and stuff since it's a winter issue? How does that prioritization work? I mean, I understand that it's not the most heavily trafficked area. So in some ways, like, is there a rubric for determining which streets get priority and how does public safety fit in? Things like those horrible photos of cars through someone's house fit into that picture.
Yeah, I can let Commissioner Bludi speak to this more,
So,
but
This
they-
was actually my plow run for a long time when I drove a truck. And this is one of the first streets we do. When that truck
Mm.
goes out, it typically starts right around the hospital. From there, it goes right up either Mary Street or up by the zoo and starts looping those off right there. And that is one of the first streets that we do every single time that truck goes out. Sometimes when you get those freak storms and we don't get guys out, it comes out of nowhere sometimes. We actually have to start at Mary Street and back up to create a landing pad there. So as we're coming down with the salt truck, we'll back up as far as we can. That way someone doesn't go sliding down into that house. Create a pad with the salt, open it up, and then start coming down from the bottom. Another reason a one-way would be tough if it's only going up, because we would have to obviously not pay attention to that to get it set up.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Any other questions or thoughts on this at this time? All right, if not, I'd look for a motion to table it. We'll just continue to keep it on the agenda and review this and continue outreach going forward. Is there a motion to table?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 65 Pine Street. This is a request for a curb, cut, and apron for residential property at that address. We had talked about this last time and we had, I believe, referred it to engineering for review. Did you get an opportunity to look at this, Ron?
Yeah, I believe there's just enough room for them to be able to do that.
Okay. Sergeant Musick or Assistant Chief Ryan, did you have, if you had an opportunity, did you have any thoughts on the request?
Yeah, I reviewed it. We don't have any opposition on it.
Okay. Okay, I think when we had discussed it too, last time we had said, generally seems to make sense, especially with the issues with off-street parking there. So I would look then for a motion to approve the request as outlined for a curb, cut, and apron, for the residential property at 65 Pine. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, the last item on our list, this is the intersection at Crandall and Thorpe Street. We received, in addition to the public comment today, we received a number of applications through the traffic board submission or request for a four-way stop sign, a speed table or speed bumps, and other measures to address some of the public safety concerns there. So I'd like to, I guess, just flag this for review between now and our next meeting. If we could have the traffic division and possibly BMTS at your availability, go out and take a look. I'd be happy to join you there. I'll pass along the contacts from the residents that we've heard from so that we can reach out to them if we need to, and just do a review of that area and an assessment to see what we might be able to do. Is there any discussion at this time on this application or this request? Okay, then I would look to table it and have it added back on the next meeting in June. Is there a motion to table?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any other items of business from board members?
May I ask what you did with item 2 on top? Kane and Woodland?
That may have been you may have an outdated agenda. We've got Mary Street in Sherwood and then 127 Walnut. 127 Walnut was another curb cut and we kicked that to engineering, Ron, so I'll forward that on to you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kane Ave, we actually moved the signs since the last meeting. Unfortunately, there's a number of residents who are not respecting the no parking signs. I went up last night based on calls that I'd been receiving and saw people literally parking right under the no parking anytime signs. And then there was additional confusion because people haven't read that some of the signs say no parking here to the curb and others, the other side of the street says no parking anytime. So there's been a bit of confusion about that. Obviously, change is difficult for people. But I'm requesting that the traffic go and look up there and try and enforce the no parking as people adjust to the change. Even if it's just a warning or however your processes work. My understanding is the people that generally violate it return home around 8 p.m. So that before 8 p.m. you probably won't see the issue. I went up at 10:30 last night to scope it out. So that's the kind of the follow-up on the Kane Ave parking, no parking side change. High school, there was some talk about trying to do something with the high school. I was wondering if there was a meeting. I haven't gotten an invite yet.
Yeah, there was a meeting with the school district, the traffic division, and BMTS to discuss kind of like a range of options for that area, both right in front of the new entrance, to the upgraded entrance to the school on Oak Street, and then closer to Main Street and the other end of the of the district, of the high school building. I think there are a couple of things, minor things we can do right off the bat with painting of existing, painting of crosswalks where existing curb cuts are to enhance safety. We are still, I think, discussing, or thinking about that, mid-block crosswalk and other pedestrian safety measures that the school district is requesting. I think the school district now, is considering, whether they want to take on that street, more fully and take over some of the, pedestrian safety measures that are happening there. That's something that the mayor had proposed to them. And I think we're kind of waiting to hear back from them on a decision for that.
Thank you for the update. I would like to be looped in. Obviously, the high school impacts every district, so it's something that I do hear about from constituents.
Sure.
Outside of my district.
Back to
Um,
Kane and Woodland, when I looked at it, there's a fence on the one corner. I reported that to code because that's a violation. It can't be that high, the
Okay,
intersection.
on Canaan Woodland, where some of the
You've
new,
got that 6 or 8 foot high fence right there in the corner.
okay,
That's gotta come down.
okay. That may help with the visibility issues. then.
will.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I can pass that to the zoning officer.
Okay, thank you.
The crossing guard who's been here previously continues to reach out. At this point, obviously, a study's already been done. There's already been follow-up on looking at the lights there. I believe now she's requesting some sort of sign to remind people to slow down or that something is coming up. I'm bringing it up because she continues to reach out about it. And then that's the over by Vestal Ave and South Washington. Yep. It's the woman who's been here a number of times. And then just to bring up, since we've been talking about speed tables and bumps, my conversations with people on the bottom of Mary are still interested in that. I mean, they've even proposed buying their own speed bump that they put out in the summer and take back in the winter so that it doesn't impact the plows if that's the problem. Obviously that's an area where people are outside and hanging out in that area and people are trying to make the light at the bottom. Bringing that up and I can submit something more formally in the future, but just to put it on notice.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, if not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
I.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.